Hey team, after recording this interview with Lance, it struck me once again how an Olympic level athlete performs. When Lance is on the rings, for example, his brain is not giving him instructions on what to do next. It's not a list that he works through. Could you imagine how terrible an Olympian he would have been had his brain needed to process just to guide his body? Imagine this. Step 1, rotate legs vertically. Step 2, constrict back muscles, thrusting legs higher into the air. Step 3, press biceps to elevate entire body. Step 4, hold vertical position for 3.2 seconds, on and on and on. Ridiculous, right? The only reason Lance was an Olympic athlete is that he moved beyond conscious competency to unconscious competency. That being said, most of us work as conscious competence, but we need to practice our skills so repetitively and frequently that our skills we work through in our performance on the day-to-day become natural subconscious actions. We need to practice with the mindset of an Olympian, to know more about our field than anyone else, to spend countless hours on how Father wants us to abide in Him and bring others to Him within our field, and to practice our craft beyond others' expectations, and ultimately to study the best practitioners repeatedly. That is the only way to move to natural action that originates from who you are and not simply what you do. With that in mind, as an introduction to proficiency, I want to share the following matrix with you to help you understand where you are, and frankly, where you need to be. So here we go. When you look at proficiency and ponder your own skill set and your mindset, it is really a question of both awareness and competence. In fact, it's pretty easy to quantify. If you cross two continuums, one that moves from low awareness to high awareness, and the other that moves from low competence to high competence, you are left with 4 quadrants. Let's look at those 4 quadrants, and once we do, you can evaluate each of your actions that relate to your duties as a field leader and qualify them accordingly. Remember, awareness of where you are weak is an amazing first step to becoming more proficient. So let's start where nobody wants to be. That is the UI quadrant. UI stands for unconscious incompetence. This is the guy who has no skills, but to the danger and fear of everyone around him, he is clueless and lacks all ability. This is the quadrant of the troublemaker. It's rare, but some of you may have even met this guy as a church planter. He has none of the skills necessary to plant a church, but he thinks he can do it and he thinks he's going to do well. We all know how that ends. The guy in this quadrant needs serious emotional intelligence help before he will ever succeed. A good first step is realizing that he is incompetent. That leads us to the CI quadrant. That is the conscious incompetent. At least this guy knows he needs to learn. He's open to bettering his skills and improving. This is the trainee. While I doubt any of you listening fall into the earlier UI quadrant, I am sure that many of you view some of the required skills of a gifted catalyst and say to yourself, I really need to improve in this area. Congratulations, you are on your way to an enhanced future, one that Father will use mightily if you commit to improving your skill set in that area. Each of us should be able to reference a few areas where we are a CI. Third, we have the area that most of us work within, day in and day out, the CC quadrant. It is where we become consciously competent. You know what you're doing, you can think through all of the aspects of your job duties, and you do pretty well with the majority of what you need to do. It's good to be here. You can make a difference. The kingdom is advanced, and you are able to apply your skills to the benefit of your church planters and their families. It's really good to be a CC. You are a tradesman. However, my wish for you is turning good into great. Most leaders stop at conscious competency, but as I reflected upon earlier talking about Lance, an Olympic gymnast is doomed if he only achieves conscious competence. He needs to become unconsciously competent. You need to become unconsciously competent. As a field leader, proficiency in your craft comes only with long-term, repeated exposure to the decisions, the systems, and the circumstances with which you deal. The highly proficient leader can see the simple, all-encompassing answer within the complex. For the committed leader, proficiency, that is being unconsciously competent, is attainable if he or she is willing to put in the time. Regardless of each skill and the quadrant you identify relates to that skill, you need to press hard to work toward the UC quadrant. The unconscious competent is a transformer. He can transform his geography. He can transform the lives of his church planting families. He can transform the spirituality of his city or geography. And yes, he can literally transform the future into the ideal that Father has planned since the foundations of time.